Greetings and salutations, fellow book readers. This is Mark, and the book I'll review today is Bel Ami. I read an English translation of it, and also I listened to the audiobook of the original French version, and it was pretty good. It is free at LibriVox, which has a pretty good library of classics read by volunteers. I like to read or listen to the text in its original version, at least in the languages I can somewhat comprehend. Before we continue, this is personalized limited edition of Bel Ami with leather cover designed and made by me. At the end of the video, I will tell you a couple of ways of how you can get one for yourself if you are interested. Now let's get back to the review. Bel Ami, or The History of the Scoundrel, is a novel written by Guy de Maupassant and published in 1885. Maupassant is one of my favorite short story writers, and he wrote quite a few in his relatively short life. Maybe I will review some of them in the future. Maupassant was born to the well-off bourgeois family, and his father added the prefix "de" to their last name to imply connection to the French nobility. As a young man, he volunteered during the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, which had a disastrous effect on France, including the capture of the Emperor Napoleon III and subsequent fall of the French Empire. The war also left a deep impact on de Maupassant, as can be seen from many of his short stories that are horror-like and focus on death. Maupassant was a literary protege of Flaubert, and thanks to it he met other great writers such as Émile Zola, Alexandre Dumas, and Turgenev. He died at 42 from syphilis, which in the 19th century took the life of many patrons of brothels, including Nietzsche. One can only wonder how much more of great literature, especially short stories, would Maupassant write, only if he was less frivolous with his sexual curiosities. The same goes to Nietzsche. What is Bel Ami about? Well, it is about doing what is necessary to move up in the society. It is not difficult to appear bright, don't worry. The main thing is never to show obvious ignorance of anything. You prevaricate, avoid the difficulty, steer clear of the problem, and then catch other people out by using a dictionary. All men are stupid oafs and ignorant nincompoops. It is ambition above all. We could say in the country of the scoundrels, the bigger the scoundrel, the further he can go. Or as Jean Jacques Roeassau said in Confessions, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is a king, which is also quoted in Bel Ami. The book paints a picture of the French bourgeois society during the early Third Republic, but it also can be considered a general portrait of the Western upper classes in the 19th century. Now, a bit of the plot. The story takes place in Paris in the 1880s. The main character is Georges Duroy, an ex-colonial soldier who, after being discharged from the military, is trying to survive in the city. His luck turns for the better when he runs into Charles Forestier, a friend who served with him in Algeria. Forestier gets Duroy a job as a writer for a local paper and presents him to his wife, Madeleine, who is intelligent and ambitious. But being a woman, her professional opportunities are limited. She becomes fond of seemingly innocent and naive Duroy and helps him with his writings, and further introduces him to a few influential people. Young and handsome and quick learner, Duroy moves through upper social circles and takes advantage of the financial and sexual opportunities that present themselves. I hope you realize that you really hit it off with the ladies. You must cultivate that. It could take you far. And the more success Duroy has, the more ambitious he becomes, until he reaches what he considers the pinnacle of his desires. And that's the basic plot. Did I like Bel Ami? I did, since in general I enjoyed the 19th century French literature. I think, together with Russian, it was the best writings for those times. For me, the British, American, or German fiction didn't reach their best until the 20th century. The novel is about the transformation of one man from naive country boy to shrewd social player, and the plot takes us through the process of getting there. At the beginning, Duroy is not very ambitious, since he doesn't have any great plan or goal of where he wants to arrive. Seemingly, he just wants two things in life: money and women, as most men do. He starts awkwardly, but learns from others and experience, and he adapts as he progresses. And as his success grows, he wants more and gets more greedy and ambitious. Duroy is a good looking and charming 19th century chap. He had a fund of small talk, a pleasant voice, a caressing glance, and his mustache was irresistible. Crisp and curly, it curved charmingly over his lip, fair with auburn tints, slightly paler where it bristled at the ends. Well, it seems as the mustaches were the thing back then and very important to one's success. I would be out of luck since it is almost impossible for me to grow a decent mustache. Anyway, Durward gets to be known, especially between the women, as Belle Amie, which translates into a nice friend, or more so beautiful friend. His looks and charm opened the doors for him, but his intelligence, enhanced by growing experience, lets him take advantage of what's inside. The way of going about has not changed much since then. Being a charming devil in general will take you further than honesty and hard work. And women of today, as the ones in the novel, still get the most of their power from their charisma and sexuality. I know there are exceptions, but that's all they are, exceptions. Duroy is what we could call a social climber, a self-made man, and as with all self-made men, he had plenty of help from others. I would say his intelligence was rather average, but he knew how to milk his good luck of running into the right people who willingly or unwillingly gave him a helping hand, often through good advice, and he listened. You see, my boy, everything depends upon assurance here. A clever fellow can more easily become a minister than an undersecretary. One must obtrude oneself on people, not ask things of them. Furthermore, Duroy maximized his strengths and downplayed his weaknesses, and as he moved upward, he gained confidence and experience for further progress. His motives for climbing up might not have been so lofty, since it seems his main drives were to take from others and to have more than they did, but I am sure that the vast majority of successful people are guided by self-serving instincts. To paraphrase Rousseau, in the country of the scoundrels, the largest scoundrel is the king. So there is some sympathy for Duroy's efforts to outdo the scoundrels around him. Duroy on the surface seems a cold-hearted and calculating beast, but this image is fueled by some strong emotions, such as jealousy and need of revenge against people who thought themselves superior to him. And these emotions are responsible for many of his actions. He's brutal in his ways of dealing with the individuals around him, but it is difficult to feel sympathy for them since they are no better than his. Duroy can be seen as an anti-hero, a type of an avenger cheered on by the poor and discarded for getting one over the people who always look down on them. After I finished the book, I came to the conclusion that Duroy hated all the people he interacted with for an extended period of time. I know this might sound like oversimplification, but it seems the growing hate was the foundation for all his doings, and it was a circle without escape. The hate he felt for others was the result of the hate Duroy felt for himself, for who he had become, and for which he blamed the very people around him. Envy, bitter envy, was permeating his soul drop by drop. like a poison that tainted all his pleasures and made his life hateful. Through Roeassau and his relationship and experiences with other people, the book gives us somewhat of a look into the workings of the French society during the Third Republic and the individuals who were part of it. He was one of those many-faced politicians without any strong belief, with no great resources, no backbone, and no real knowledge of anything. A country lawyer with provincial good looks, craftily walking the tightrope between any extremist parties, a kind of Republican Jesuit, a sort of dubious little mushroom such as flourish in their hundreds on the popular dunghill of universal suffrage. The Third Republic came into existence after the collapse of the French colonial empire in 1870. The irony is that France acquired more colonies after the fall of the colonial empire than during it, and colonization was a popular conversation subject and for the wealthy business investment. Roeassau was a colonial soldier in French Algeria, and he's initially contracted by the newspaper to write a series of articles about his experiences there. There is also a discussion of colonization of Marruecos and financial benefits it would bring to the individuals willing to participate in it. The second part of the 19th century was a peak of the European colonial adventures in Africa. The continent offered the last unexplored, unclaimed, and accessible lands. The poles were also unexplored, but they were not very accessible nor useful with the 19th century technology. So it was Africa and the wealth to be gained from it that was discussed at the tables of the arrogant European upper classes, not only in France but also in Great Britain, Belgium, Germany, and even countries we don't consider traditional colonial powers were contemplating the worthiness of colonial exploits. To sum it up, Bel-Ami is a well-written book when taking into consideration that Maupassant was a short story writer, so the finishing of the novel required a lot of effort and commitment on his side. Actually, the plot is made up of various episodes that could have been short stories on their own merits. Further, I liked the prose and found some passages to be beautifully written. It was one of those bitter mornings when the whole of nature is shiny, brittle, and hard like a crystal. The trees, decked out in frost, seem to have sweated ice. The earth resounds beneath one's feet. The tiniest sounds carry a long way in the dry air. The blue sky is bright as a mirror, and the sun moves through space in icy brilliance, casting on the frozen world rays which bestow no warmth upon anything. To reiterate, Bel-Ami portrays one man's journey into the moral corruption and hypocrisy of the French upper classes. Not to say that the lower classes were not corrupted, maybe they were, but didn't have many opportunities to exercise it. And further, once you are inside, the behavior of the privileged becomes your own fixation and addiction, and you are somewhat helpless about becoming what you thought you despised, conniving, envious, egocentric being. Also, the plot takes place at the end of the 19th century, but the eternal power of social skills and lack of scruples is as effective today as it was back then. And nowadays, looking at our society, it might even take you further. On the still more somber note, the book's underlying mood is somewhat existential pessimism. For a number of years he had lived, eaten, laughed, hoped like everyone else, and for him it was over for good. A life, a few days, and then nothing. You're born, you grow up, you're happy, you wait, then you die. Goodbye, man or woman, you will never return to this earth. And yet, each one of us bears within him the fierce, unrealized longing for eternity. Each of us is kind of universe within the universe, and each of us soon vanishes completely into the dunghill of new organisms. Plants, animals, men, stars, worlds, everything quickens, then dies, in order to transform itself. and nothing ever returns, whether insects, man, or planet. There is the pressure of time on our lives and the superficiality and temporality of our actions and our existence. It reflects the Maupassant's own skeptical and cynical view of human life, probably influenced by the awareness of being infected with syphilis and knowing it was slowly killing him. On his gravestone in Paris is written, "I have coveted everything and taken pleasure in nothing," which he chose himself, and it sums up his life, or life in general, at least the way he saw it. Anyway, I enjoyed Bel Ami. It is one of my favorite French anti-hero novels, together with Huysmans' Against Nature and Stendhal's The Red and the Black, which I think I already reviewed. There are a few adaptations of the novel. I saw the French version from the 50s, but the one I really enjoyed is the 2012 film starring some pretty good actors, Robert Pattinson of the Twilight Saga, Uma Thurman, Christina Ricci, and Christine Scott Thomas, and they all do a nice job portraying the novel's characters. But to my surprise, the film never got much traction. People rather would see Pattinson as a flying vampire than do some serious interpretations. Okay, let's talk about the physical book. The book I am holding is a paperback which I transformed into hardcover leather-bound edition. To make the cover, I use grade A, naturally tan hide I buy from Tanner in North Spain. It is the same leather Louis Vuitton uses to make his bags, so it is top quality. I do all the processing of the leather myself. First, I designed the cover, and here I use this painting of a 19th century fashionable dandy with this cold and calculated look in his eyes, which reminded me of Duroy. This is the back with the blurb, and inside front cover I printed a quote from the book. If you want to see a more detailed video where I explain how I transform paperback into leather hardcover, click on the link in the description. I will make a maximum of 100 editions of each title. Each one will be numbered and initialed, and the numbers will go in chronological order from 2 up, since number 1 stays with me. The price will be around $100, so if you would like me to make one for you, you can click below on my email and send me a message. I do not guarantee I will do it, since it will depend on the time I have available, access to leather, and if I can get my hands on the copy of the book. Now, if you are not willing to spend $100 but you still want the book, what you can do is click below on the PayPal link and donate $3 or more to my channel, and for every 100 donations I will make a lottery and draw one name, and the winner will receive the book. So if you are cheap but feel lucky, this might be the way to do it. Also, your donations give me the extra motivation to make the book reviews, and I appreciate them very much, so thank you in advance. One more thing, when you make your donation, remember to include the title of the book you would like to win. The book itself is beautiful. Visually it has a very nice texture, it smells great, and the more you handle it, the more beautiful it will become. And it makes a great gift for yourself or somebody who appreciates books. So if you want one, don't snooze, or you might lose. Well, this is it, so let's end it here, and until next time, keep your ear close to the ground and read a book. Adios.